the hand of God, the most famous cheat in football history. But here's the thing, it's not even close to being the worst. From match-fixing scandals that shook entire nations, to players literally biting their opponents, to referees being bribed with suitcases full of cash, the World Cup has seen it all, and today, I'm going to take you through every single one of them. This is the entire history of cheating in the World Cup, and trust me, some of these stories are going to blow your mind. Look, the World Cup is supposed to be the pinnacle of football, right? The biggest stage, the most prestigious tournament, where legends are made and dreams come true. But behind all the glory, behind all the celebrations and the tears of joy, there's a darker side to the beautiful game, a side where players, managers, and even entire federations have been willing to do whatever it takes to win. And I mean whatever it takes. So buckle up, because we're about to go on a journey through nearly a century of World Cup history, and we're going to uncover some of the most outrageous, controversial, and downright dirty moments the tournament has ever seen. From the very first World Cup in 1930 all the way to the modern era, cheating has been a part of the game. And some of these stories, you won't believe they actually happened. Let's start at the beginning, the 1930 World Cup in Uruguay. Now, you might think that back in the early days of football, everything was pure and innocent, that players shook hands before games and played with honor and respect. Yeah, not quite. Even in the very first World Cup, there were accusations of foul play, dodgy refereeing, and teams trying to gain an unfair advantage. The hosts, Uruguay, were accused of influencing referees and getting favorable decisions throughout the tournament. Now, there's no concrete evidence of bribery or anything like that, but let's just say that some of the refereeing decisions were questionable. Uruguay ended up winning the tournament, beating Argentina 4-2 in the final, and while they were undoubtedly a great team, the controversy surrounding their victory left a bitter taste in the mouths of their opponents. But that was nothing compared to what happened in 1934. The World Cup was held in Italy, and it was hosted by Benito Mussolini's fascist regime. And Mussolini wanted Italy to win, badly. This wasn't just about football, this was about propaganda, about showing the world that Italy was a powerful nation, and Mussolini was willing to do whatever it took to make sure Italy lifted that trophy. There were reports of referees being intimidated, of opposing teams being threatened, and of matches being fixed to ensure Italy progressed through the tournament. In the semi-final against Austria, the referee was allegedly told that if Italy didn't win, there would be consequences. And guess what? Italy won. Then, in the final against Czechoslovakia, Italy were losing 1-0 until the referee awarded them a very soft equalizer. The game went to extra time, and Italy scored the winner. They'd won the World Cup, but the whole tournament was shrouded in controversy. And it didn't stop there. In 1938, Italy won the World Cup again. And once more, there were accusations of match fixing and referee intimidation. Mussolini's regime had turned the World Cup into a political tool, and football was no longer just a game, it was a weapon. But let's fast forward to 1954, because this is where things get really interesting. The World Cup was held in Switzerland, and the final was between West Germany and Hungary. Now, Hungary were the favorites. They had the best team in the world. They'd beaten England 6-3 at Wembley, and they were unbeaten in 4 years. They were unstoppable. But in the final, something strange happened. Hungary took an early 2-0 lead, and it looked like the game was over. But then West Germany fought back and won 3-2 in one of the biggest upsets in World Cup history. But here's where it gets dodgy. Years later, it was revealed that the West German team had been taking performance-enhancing drugs. Yep, you heard that right, doping. In the 1954 World Cup final, a German doctor later admitted that he had injected the players with methamphetamine before the game to give them extra energy and stamina. Now, at the time, doping wasn't illegal in football, so technically they didn't break any rules. But let's be honest, that's cheating. Hungary should have won that World Cup, but they were beaten by a team that was literally on drugs. Absolutely mental. Now let's jump to 1966, and one of the most controversial moments in World Cup history. The final was between England and West Germany at Wembley, and the game was tied 2-2 in extra time. Then, in the 101st minute, Jeff Hurst hit a shot that bounced down off the crossbar. The ball landed on the goal line, and the referee awarded a goal. But here's the thing. The ball never crossed the line. Replays have shown over and over again that the ball didn't fully cross the line, but the goal stood. England went on to win 4-2, and they lifted the World Cup on home soil. But to this day, Germans will tell you that England cheated their way to that trophy. And honestly, they've got a point. That goal should never have been given. And if VAR had existed back then, England probably wouldn't have won. Sorry, England fans, but it's the truth. But if you think that's bad, wait until you hear about 1978. The World Cup was held in Argentina, and just like Italy in the 30s, this was a tournament hosted by a dictatorship. Argentina's military junta wanted the national team to win to distract the population from the political turmoil and human rights abuses happening in the country. And just like Italy, they were willing to do whatever it took. In the second group stage, Argentina needed to beat Peru by 4 goals to reach the final ahead of Brazil, and guess what? They won 6-0. 6-0. Now, Peru weren't a bad team. They'd beaten Scotland in the group stages, but against Argentina, they completely collapsed. And there were rumors, lots of rumors. It was alleged that the Argentine government had bribed the Peruvian players and officials to throw the match. There were reports of money being exchanged, of threats being made, and of Peru's goalkeeper Ramon Quiroga, who was actually born in Argentina, deliberately letting in goals. To this day, the truth has never been fully revealed, but most people believe that match was fixed. Argentina went on to win the World Cup, but their victory will always be tainted by suspicion. Now, let's talk about 1982, because this is where we get one of the most blatant examples of match fixing in World Cup history. It's known as the Disgrace of Gijón, and it involved West Germany and Austria. Both teams were in the same group as Algeria, and on the final day of group matches, West Germany played Austria. Algeria had already played their final game and won, which meant that if West Germany beat Austria by 1 or 2 goals, both European teams would go through and Algeria would be eliminated. So what happened? West Germany scored in the 10th minute, and then nothing. Both teams just stopped trying. They passed the ball around, they didn't attack, they didn't defend, they just played out the rest of the match like it was a training session. It was obvious to everyone watching that the two teams had agreed to fix the result. The Algerian players were furious, the fans were furious, and even the commentators were disgusted. Algeria filed a protest, but it was rejected. West Germany and Austria both went through, and Algeria went home. It was one of the most shameful moments in World Cup history, and it led to FIFA changing the rules so that the final group games had to be played at the same time to prevent this from ever happening again. But the damage was done, and Algeria had been cheated out of a place in the knockout stages. Alright, before we get into the really juicy stuff, I need you to do something for me. If you're enjoying this video and you want to see more deep dives into football history, smash that like button and subscribe to Soccer Chronicles. Seriously, it helps us out massively, and it lets us know that you want more content like this. Also, drop a comment below and let me know, what's the worst cheat you've ever seen in football? I want to hear your thoughts. Alright, let's get back to it. Now we're getting into the modern era, and this is where things get really spicy. Let's talk about 1986, and the moment that defines cheating in football. The hand of God. Diego Maradona. Argentina versus England in the quarterfinals. You know the story, but let me paint the picture for you. It's the 51st minute, the game is 0-0, and Maradona is chasing a loose ball into the England penalty area. The ball is in the air, England goalkeeper Peter Shilton comes out to punch it away, and Maradona jumps up and punches the ball into the net with his hand. The referee doesn't see it, the goal stands, and Maradona runs away celebrating like he's just scored the greatest goal of all time. After the match, Maradona was asked about the goal, and he said it was scored a little with the head of Maradona and a little with the hand of God. The audacity. He literally admitted to cheating, but he tried to make it sound poetic. And the worst part? Argentina went on to win the World Cup, and Maradona became a legend. But that goal should never have stood, and England were robbed. Now, to be fair to Maradona, he did score one of the greatest goals ever just 4 minutes later, dribbling past half the England team and slotting it past Shilton. But that doesn't change the fact that he cheated, and to this day, English fans will never forgive him for it. But Maradona wasn't done cheating. In the 1990 World Cup, Argentina reached the final again, and throughout the tournament, there were accusations of time wasting, diving, and gamesmanship. In the final against West Germany, Argentina had 2 players sent off, and they lost 1-0. But even in defeat, they were accused of trying to cheat their way to victory. Maradona might be one of the greatest players of all time, but he was also one of the biggest cheats. Let's move on to 1994, and one of the most shocking scandals in World Cup history. Colombia were one of the favorites to win the tournament, but they had a disastrous campaign and were eliminated in the group stages. In their match against the USA, Colombian defender Andres Escobar scored an own goal that contributed to their 2-1 defeat. It was a tragic mistake, but what happened next was even more tragic. When Escobar returned to Colombia, he was shot and killed outside a nightclub in Medellin. It's believed that his murder was linked to the own goal, and that drug cartels who had bet heavily on Colombia to win had ordered the hit. It was a horrific reminder of how much money and corruption was involved in football, and how dangerous the sport could be when organized crime got involved. But the 1994 World Cup also gave us another cheating scandal, and this one involved one of the greatest players of all time. Diego Maradona was back, playing for Argentina once again, and in their match against Nigeria, he scored and celebrated wildly. But after the game, Maradona was randomly drug tested, and he tested positive for ephedrine, a banned substance. He was kicked out of the World Cup, banned from football, and his career was effectively over. Maradona had cheated again, and this time he got caught. Now let's talk about 2002, because this World Cup was absolutely riddled with controversy. It was co-hosted by South Korea and Japan, and South Korea's run to the semifinals was one of the most controversial in World Cup history. In the round of 16, they played Italy, and the referee made some absolutely shocking decisions. He disallowed a perfectly good Italian goal. He sent off Francesco Totti for diving when he was clearly fouled, and he allowed South Korea to get away with multiple fouls. South Korea won in extra time, and Italy were furious. Then, in the quarterfinals, South Korea played Spain, and once again, the referee was terrible. He disallowed 2 legitimate Spanish goals, and South Korea won on penalties. The Spanish players were in tears, and there were accusations that FIFA had instructed referees to favor South Korea to ensure the hosts progressed as far as possible. It was a disgrace, and it tainted South Korea's entire World Cup run. But 2002 also gave us another moment of individual brilliance, or should I say, individual cheating. In the group stages, Germany played Saudi Arabia, and German striker Miroslav Klose scored a goal with his hand. Just like Maradona, he punched the ball into the net, and the referee didn't see it. But here's the difference. Klose admitted to it after the match. He said he'd handled the ball and that the goal shouldn't have stood. At least he had the decency to be honest about it, unlike Maradona. Let's jump to 2006 and one of the most infamous moments in World Cup history. The final was between Italy and France, and it was Zinedine Zidane's last ever game. The match was tied 1-1 in extra time, and Zidane was having a brilliant game. But then, in the 110th minute, Italian defender Marco Materazzi said something to Zidane. Nobody knows exactly what he said, but it was enough to make Zidane snap. He turned around and headbutted Materazzi in the chest, and he was sent off. Italy went on to win the World Cup on penalties, and Zidane's career ended in disgrace. But here's the thing. Materazzi admitted years later that he'd insulted Zidane's sister to provoke him. So while Zidane was the one who got sent off, Materazzi was the one who cheated by using psychological warfare to get his opponent sent off. It was a dirty tactic, and it worked. Now, 2010 gave us one of the most blatant handballs in World Cup history, and this time, it wasn't Maradona, it was Luis Suárez. In the quarterfinal between Uruguay and Ghana, the match was tied 1-1 in the final minute of extra time. Ghana had a shot that was heading into the net, and Suárez, who was standing on the goal line, punched the ball away with both hands. He was sent off, Ghana were awarded a penalty, but Asamoah Gyan missed it. The game went to penalties, and Uruguay won. Suárez was vilified for his actions, but he didn't care. He said he'd do it again because it gave Uruguay a chance to win. And technically, he was right. He broke the rules. He got punished with a red card, but Ghana still had a chance to score from the penalty. They didn't. Uruguay went through. It was cheating, sure, but it was also smart, and that's what makes it so controversial. But Suárez wasn't done. In the 2014 World Cup, he bit Italian defender Giorgio Chiellini on the shoulder during a group stage match. Yep, you read that right. He bit him. Like a vampire. Chiellini pulled down his shirt to show the referee the bite marks, but the referee didn't see it, and Suárez wasn't punished during the game. However, FIFA reviewed the footage after the match and banned Suárez for 9 international matches and 4 months from all football activity. It was one of the most bizarre moments in World Cup history, and it confirmed what everyone already knew. Luis Suárez was one of the dirtiest players in the game. The 2018 World Cup in Russia was relatively clean compared to previous tournaments, but there were still a few controversial moments. In the round of 16, Colombia played England, and the match was one of the dirtiest games in recent World Cup history. Colombian players were headbutting, elbowing, and kicking English players throughout the match. They were time-wasting, diving, and trying every trick in the book to disrupt England's rhythm. England eventually won on penalties, but the match left a sour taste. And then there was Neymar. Oh, Neymar. The Brazilian forward became a meme during the 2018 World Cup because of his constant diving and rolling around on the floor. Every time he was touched, he'd go down like he'd been shot, and he'd roll around for what felt like minutes. It was embarrassing, and it made a mockery of the game. Neymar was accused of cheating by exaggerating fouls to try and get opponents sent off, And while it's technically not against the rules, it's definitely against the spirit of the game. The 2022 World Cup in Qatar was also controversial, but for different reasons. The entire tournament was surrounded by accusations of corruption, with FIFA officials allegedly being bribed to award the World Cup to Qatar in the first place.
The 2022 FIFA World Cup is Qatar.
There were reports of human rights abuses, of migrant workers dying while building the stadiums, and of Qatar spending billions of dollars to buy the tournament. It was a dark cloud hanging over the entire competition. But on the pitch, there were still moments of controversy. In the final between Argentina and France, Argentina were awarded a penalty in the first half that many people thought was soft. Angel Di Maria went down in the box after minimal contact, and the referee pointed to the spot. Lionel Messi scored, and Argentina went on to win the World Cup. Now, was it a dive? Was it a penalty? People are still arguing about it to this day. But one thing's for sure, it was a controversial decision that had a huge impact on the final. So, what have we learned from all of this? Well, cheating has been a part of the World Cup since the very beginning. From match fixing in the 30s to doping in the 50s to handballs in the 80s and 2000s, players and teams have always been willing to bend the rules to get an advantage. And while some of these moments are remembered as iconic, others are remembered as shameful. But here's the thing, cheating is part of what makes football so dramatic. We love to hate the villains, we love to argue about controversial decisions, and we love to debate whether something was a dive or a foul. It's what makes the World Cup so compelling, and it's why we keep coming back every 4 years. Now, I'm not saying cheating is okay, it's not, but it's a part of the game, and it always will be. And as long as there's money, glory, and national pride on the line, players will keep trying to find ways to gain an advantage, whether it's legal or not. So if you enjoyed this deep dive into the dark side of the World Cup, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload from Soccer Chronicles. Drop a comment below and let me know, what's the worst cheat in World Cup history? Is it Maradona's hand of God, Suárez's handball against Ghana, or something else entirely? I want to hear your thoughts. And if you want to see more videos about the greatest moments, players, and controversies in football history, check out the video on screen right now. Trust me, you're going to love it. Alright, that's it from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.